Hey everyone, welcome to a 4th of July episode of As the World Churns. I hope everyone is enjoying the holiday weekend. Although a little later in the show, we'll get into how exactly we're supposed to feel on July 4th, given everything that's going on right now in this country. But let's start with this big dumbass bill, which, as we record this, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries is in the midst of a very long speech that may break the record for the longest speech, I guess, given on the House floor, all in an attempt to stave off this bill passing. Probably it's not going to work. I mean, by the time you're listening to this or watching this, the bill may have passed already. But I guess, Danielle, we were talking before we started, and we have a bit of a disagreement about the Democrats' efforts on this.
Look, I know that people like to believe that we need to put all attention on the Republicans' depravity and on their odious bill that is going to kill millions of Americans. And 100% right. But you also have to understand how we got here in the first fucking place. And the fact is that when Democrats are presented with a pathway forward, and this is where my disagreement is that Hakeem Jeffries right now, given a marathon speech on the floor as of the time of this recording, has passed the 8 hour mark. You know, congratulations to him for holding the floor. There's a lot that and you know, when people say like, oh, there's not a lot that Democrats can do, they're doing everything they can. And it's just like every single time the Democrats are in the minority, it's always my hands are tied behind my back. What do you want me to do? And yet when Republicans are in the same position, they manage to thwart entire legislative agendas with procedural maneuverings that are available to Democrats as well. And that is more than just political theater of holding down the floor. It's things that can be done. It's organized strategy in terms of how you're talking to the American people about this bill. It's getting out and doing basic retail fucking politics and not just stunts, right? That aren't tied to procedural slowdown mechanisms that we know that Republicans are incredibly good at. Because you had, you know, during the Biden administration, you had what's his face in the Senate. I can't remember the name of the Republican. He's one of the ones that
Tuberville.
Tuberville that held up how many? How many of Biden's judge appointments did that man hold up? Hundreds. One person in the Senate. So you can't tell me when we're looking around at the things that Democrats can do, whether they're in the House or the Senate, that they're using every single tool in their toolbox while also speaking directly to the American people about what is going to happen if this kind of legislation goes forward. So I say, great, I'm glad that you're doing this, but also instead of talking about the big beautiful bill, bullshit bill last fucking weekend, they spent their whole fucking time talking about Mandani and calling him a jihadist and spending all that fucking energy all weekend long on cable news. So where was your fire then? It was directed towards a progressive that actually has a plan of how to move this country forward and ignite the passions of young people that you want to pay fucking consultants to do. So that's my grievance.
Okay. So I don't fully disagree with you. And in particular, I think the Democrats own a lot of the reason we got to where we are. But I do think they have been doing a pretty good job of getting the message out on this bill. I agree it would have been nice if they didn't waste all our fucking time talking about Mamdani all weekend on, last weekend on the shows. But I do think they've been pretty good about explaining just how bad this bill is going to be. I think we do, at a certain point, we do have to accept that when it comes to a vote like this, when you're in the minority, you're in the minority. And there is only so much you can do. The thing is, as you sort of I think hinted at without actually saying, the Republicans are much more willing when they're in the minority to, for lack of a better word, cheat.
Yes.
And the Democrats are not willing to do that. And I think for a long time, that has, at least to a certain extent, been admirable. I don't know that it is anymore, because when one side is twisting, bending, breaking the rules so that it basically feels like if the Republicans have a 1 seat majority, there's nothing the Democrats can do. But if the Democrats have a 15-seat majority, there's a lot that the Republicans seem to be able to do. And then what we hear from the Democrats is, well, we need a supermajority. We need a veto-proof majority. We need whatever.
And it's bullshit. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I do think we agree on that. I'm not quite. I'm not as hard on them with regard to this particular bill. I do think it needs to be hammered home that this is a Republican creation, and this is ultimately this is Republicans that are going to be that are doing this to this country. This is Republicans that are going to be enacting these draconian Medicaid cuts. It's Republicans in this instance who are trying to go after trans people, who are trying to mess with people's health care. I guess my bottom line is I share some of your sentiment about the Democrats, and I wish they'd done a hell of a lot fucking more to not get us to where we are now. But I do think, late as it is, I do think that they have been pretty on point with messaging on this bill, and I think going forward, I do think we need to hammer home that this is very much Donald Trump and MAGA and the Republicans' vision of America, where people lose benefits, where people lose health care. That's what they want.
Yeah, and look, 59% of the people polled, right, are against this bill. 59% of Americans, according to Quinnipiac, are against this bill, right? And so the people know what is in this. They know what is going to be taken away. And, here's the thing. Because Republicans don't give a shit about history, because they don't know history, the Revolutionary War was begat over less. Okay? Like, they threw tea into the harbor over less. And I'm like, and when people realize that, when 16 million people realize that they no longer have access to health care, when SNAP benefits and kids in schools are now going to go hungry, when you're going to visibly and physically see the changes in this country for the absolute fucking worse, they're playing a gambling game that in the long run, they're going to fucking lose and lose hard. And I pray that I'm alive for the day that they do.
I don't know how many people saw this story that was in the New York Times earlier this week about how Trump invited a bunch of Republican Congress people to the White House. They were people who were not necessarily supporting this bill. And he gave them swag. I don't know how else to say it. He gave them signed merchandise. He took pictures with them in the Oval Office and gave them copies. And a bunch of these holdouts are now not holdouts. And we sort of talked the other day about Lisa Murkowski and about selling out cheap. This is like the ultimate in selling out cheap. You sold out cheap for a concert t-shirt. For a
flailing failed fucking band, washed up fucking band.
Yeah, and let's face it, it's the equivalent of one of those bootleg jerseys or shirts that you could buy outside the arena. I may be showing my age here. I don't know if this is still a thing, but it definitely was back when I was young. And it's just unbelievable. Tim Burchett, a Republican from Tennessee, he was a holdout. He was either not going to vote for the big bullshit bill, or he was on the fence. And he walked out and he said, "The president was wonderful as always, informative, funny. He told me he liked seeing me on TV, which was kind of cool." He is now voting for the bill. I mean, these are the guys, by the way, who like to think they walk around calling themselves alphas. Like, could you be? You're not even a beta. You're a fucking omega at this point. Like, you are at the end of the Greek alphabet, my friend. This is just the most pathetic shit I've ever seen, and it's just amazing how cheap they will sell out.
The omega. That's good.